Not since 2010 have Hearts faced Falkirk at home in the Scottish top flight. That was a 3-2 win for Jim Jeffries' side that day. I'd take that tomorrow if that meant keeping this excellent start to the season going. Sounds like it'd be a lot of fun as well, although I'm not sure there'd be many on board with conceding 2 goals at home to a newly promoted side especially so soon after the crazy afternoon against Motherwell. My name is Craig Cairns. This is Heart Standard, and with Joel on holiday to watch some baseball while he's there, to steal some parlance from US sport, we've drafted in an up-and-coming star. Will he have fluid hit? Will he be a cow on ice? We will leave that for the audience to decide. It is Blair Meikle. How are you doing, Blair?
I'm very well, thanks, Craig. I was fine until that. I got bigged up a bit too much there, but
too much pressure. Have I passed the first test of pronouncing your name correctly?
Yes, perfect.
Nice one. Meikle. I don't think I've ever come across that one before.
I think it's a Scottish name, so I could be wrong, but I think
Scottish.
But yeah,
so Blair,
pronunciation.
Sorry. Thank you. No, you're all right. Blair is going to be doing some work with us in the future, so hopefully become a bit more of a regular feature of these videos. Before we get into discussing tomorrow's game against Falkirk, thanks to everybody for joining us. Please get your comments in. I will try to get as many as I can, but I'm juggling a lot of things here as I go, so apologies if I don't get to as many as I would like. We are currently at almost 3.8 thousand subscribers. Please subscribe if you haven't already. We were aiming for 4,000 by the end of the year, but after discussions with Tony Bloom, we've revised that to a target of 5,000 by the end of the year. And if you like what we do, please head over to heartstandard.co.uk or download our app. I have linked a couple of the articles that we're going to discuss today in the description. And just finally, Heart Standard is brought to you by S1 Jobs. If it's time to hand in your transfer request, then head over to s1jobs.com and upload your CV today. With thousands of jobs across Edinburgh and the surrounding area, you'll find the one at S1 Jobs. Start your search today. Right, so I suppose the best place to start, Blair, would be what we've kind of teased with the headline of the video, and that's who's going to start at right back. We'll come on to discuss whether we think it's going to be a back three or a back four, and thus whether it's going to be a right back or a right wing back. But we were having the discussion yesterday, and I was putting the point to you that I think that with the Edinburgh derby on the horizon, and with Oisin McEntee kind of carrying this foot complaint for a couple of weeks, but playing through it, if there is any risk whatsoever with Borchgrevink back, it's more likely that Borchgrevink will play on the right rather than McEntee.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think just from McInnes' comments yesterday, he's a bit more hesitant with McEntee than he is with Borchgrevink. I think McEntee needs to be nursed a wee bit more with his issue, whereas Borchgrevink's like back available. He's been training for a while and he's had minutes in his legs in the bounce game. So if he needs to be cautious with either of them, it's more likely to be with McEntee. And then, of course, obviously, McEntee's sort of physicality and stuff is potentially more suited to the derby, so he might be left in reserve for that, whereas this game might suit Borchgrevink a wee bit more. I wouldn't be surprised either way what he goes for, but yeah, I would be like you. I'd be leaning more towards Borchgrevink. And then obviously you've got the option of maybe giving him 60 minutes and then bringing McEntee on for 30 or vice versa, depending on which way round he does it. Like one of them plays 60, one of them plays 30. Might be something that's in his head as an option. Obviously depending on the game, how the game goes as well. If he can make that sub.
Definitely. I wouldn't be surprised if they were both used at some point. What I don't think we'll see is Borchgrevink play on the right and then McEntee play in the centre. I think we maybe will see that as the season progresses, but just kind of like flesh out my thinking on that is that I feel that you'll see Hibs as the bigger game, the more intense game, the bigger challenge. Hibs have got better players than Falkirk. It's a bigger occasion. And I think that he won't want the scenario where Borchgrevink hasn't got enough minutes in his legs after returning from injury, but then has to start for the derby, and he's without McEntee because McEntee's played and then has aggravated a foot issue with this, which has then put him out from the derby. I think his thinking is then going to be the other way around, that safer to play Borchgrevink in this game, gets him some minutes, means that he will be in a better shape to play a part in the derby or to play the full thing if he's needed, and it means that McEntee isn't risk. And McEntee's one of the players that's played, off the top of my head, he might have even started every league match, but he's one of the players that's played a lot of football.
Yeah, definitely. That's another good point as well. That'll definitely come into McInnes' thinking, I think, when he's picking his team. So yeah, as I said before, I think it is all leaning towards likely to be Borchgrevink, but yeah, I wouldn't be surprised either way.
Let's go and talk about something that we talk about every week, and that is whether it's going to be a back three or a back four. Now, I put out the predicted 11 with a back three, knowing that there's probably going to be some people that look at it, whether they comment on it or not, there's going to be some people that look at it and think, a back three at home to Falkirk, but I would argue that I think the shape is secondary to how you kind of approach a game. You can play attacking back threes, you can play defensive back threes, you can do the same with back fours. And again, I don't know if you have any thoughts on this or pick me up on anything you disagree with, but my thinking with this, Blair, is that Hearts still haven't, again, it's like an issue that goes back seasons, nobody's really nailed down the position on the right there. And I think if Borchgrevink does come back in, he's going to want somebody that's maybe a bit more settled in the team there. So it's not going to be, for instance, Kurjota, I don't think. It's maybe not going to be Kabori there. He's tried there a couple of games. So I'm thinking that Kizaridis might move over to the right of a front three. I've got some other reasons for that, but I don't know if you have any movement on a back three or a back four.
So it's interesting because I had actually been thinking 4-4. It would maybe just stick with 4-4-2 again, with slight alterations within that from what it was against Rangers. But then actually just having read your predicted lineup this afternoon and your reasonings for it, I'm maybe coming a wee bit around to that as well. A big reason for that would be, I think Kizaridis is the only one of the wide men who's properly sort of established himself and is like in a position where he's meriting a start at the moment. So if you play the 3-4-3, it kind of takes that problem away because Braga then becomes one of the wide players and you don't have to think about who's playing on the opposite side. And then obviously you've got Harry Milne, who played wide midfield before, but he would just drop back into his more natural position. And then Beningame and Devlin both did really well in the Rangers game, so they can just carry on as they were. So yeah, I think, as I say, I am coming sort of more around to your thinking, having read your piece earlier.
If I laugh while you're talking, it's nothing to do with what you're saying. It's comments that come in. So Adam here is saying from Gorgie Talk, saying, Craig, you've forgotten about the possibility of the mercurial Harry Milne on the right of midfield. This is exactly my point. Initially, I'd put a 4-4-2 in the predicted lineup, and then I had 10 players down. I got to the right of midfield, and I was thinking, who am I putting there? Who am I putting there? So that's why I kind of went to the back three, and then I talked myself into saying that you can have attacking back threes, which I truly believe. I don't know why I'm saying it so sarcastic like that. And another reason I think for a front three is that, and we can maybe come on to talk about how Falkirk play a little bit here because it's related. Falkirk do like to pass out from the back. They're a footballing side, and I believe Hearts are going to go to want to press them, and that front three, I think, would allow them to do that. There's a lot of legs to do that there, and I think, again, off the top of my head, against Motherwell, who tried a similar approach, sure Hearts were 4-4-2 that day and then switched to a back three at half time. So again, that sort of played into my thinking. But I think regardless, Blair, I think we should, with how Falkirk play, I think we should be expecting Hearts to go at them from the off and basically test or see how good they are at wanting to pass it out.
Yeah, definitely. I think obviously most games at Hearts at home anyway, you can expect that. But if it's a team that's going to try and play that way, then they're almost inviting Hearts the opportunity to go and try and press them. And so obviously out of possession, try and press them and win the ball back high. But then obviously when Hearts are in possession, to be trying to be the team on the front foot and everything. So I think that'll definitely be the approach. You would just have to hope that they're not as good as Motherwell at playing through it, and also that Hearts have their press a wee bit more organised than they did that day.
Yeah, you can imagine Hearts will be a lot better. Like, surely Hearts can't be as bad as they were for the first 60 or whatever it was, 70 minutes of that game. But you'd hope that Falkirk wouldn't be quite as good as Motherwell were that day either for about 60 or 70 minutes. I'll jump into some comments and then I have one that I can kind of throw back at you. Alan Hill agrees Borchgrevink will start. Michael Ovens asks, any news on Aju? Apparently scans yesterday. Dale said, yes, that's what we were told yesterday. That was his scan. We will probably not get more information until the game tomorrow. After the game tomorrow, sorry. But he did also say yesterday that they were hoping to have him back for the Hibs game, but because there's an international break after that, again, he's another one that they're not going to take any risks with. And he's stressing that it's not a serious injury or anything like that. It's just not one that they wanted to take a chance with aggravating any further or anything along those lines. And Kev Mack says here, play the same team we played against Rangers. What do you think about that, Blair? Is there an argument for just going with exactly the same team?
I think there's an argument for it. I wouldn't be totally against it myself. Obviously, Hearts were set up that day, not defensive first, but with the opponent strongly in mind. Obviously, playing Milne at right midfield is designed to be sort of nullifying their threat rather than thinking of Hearts attacking first. But it's a totally different game tomorrow, which is why I'd mentioned before that I was thinking 4-4-2, but with alterations within that, which one of them would have been Milne going back to left back and someone else coming in. But I think it's an option just to go with the same team, because it's not a completely defensive negative team. Hearts did end up kind of dominating that game at Ibrox with that team, so there's no reason they can't do that at home to Falkirk as well. But having said all that, I don't think it will be. I think Milne will be back at left back regardless of the shape, and it'll be a bit more offensively thinking rather than what it was that day.
No, you're right. McInnes did say after that game that he did speak about the Milne decision in a defensive sense, but he also like tracking Magoma and Rangers attacking a lot down their left-hand side. But he also spoke about it in an offensive sense and having a lefty on that side, and he felt he was the best to kind of provide that attacking threat. And you see him playing like a winger on the left-hand side as well. So nothing saying he can't do it on the other side. But I agree with you. That said, it did seem like more of a sort of horses for courses choice rather than something that he's going to repeat. And just Kev Mack did come back in and add that other than injured players, that is. Adam's also suggesting there's a small chance that Magnusson gets a start. I think that's a good shout. I think that if there's a change to the midfield, I think Magnusson comes in, and Scott Innes says, I think this might have come in before we discussed it, so I won't go over my reasoning or repeat myself, but he says it's not possible to start with the back four, so McEntee can go into the midfield. I think that'll be something later in the season, but probably just not for this weekend and just not for the next few months. Of just wait until everybody's sort of fully up to speed. And then Lewis says he can't even see him risking with the I don't know, seeing it's shortened. Are we saying Bork? Are we saying Borch? I don't know, because it's Borchgrevink.
I would have thought Bork, yeah, but it
Bork. Okay,
doesn't slip off the tongue as well, doesn't it?
it needs the in front of it or something. The Bork. Hope that means a back four though, as McEntee is much better as a right back as a right back as opposed to a wing back. Yeah. McInnes did say, he didn't actually say it in those words, but he said something along the lines of McEntee is better with a winger in front of him, but he didn't say between a right back and a right wing back. And I wonder if there will be times where he will play right wing back, but like the lineup I've predicted, there will be a winger in front of him. They did try that at St Mirren, but it didn't. Clearly didn't work out in the last 16 of the cup. But do you see that as a scenario at all, Blair, that he doesn't risk Borchgrevink at all this weekend, that this comes too soon for him and keeps him for the derby? Because then that could be a scenario as well where we're talking about keeping McEntee fit for the derby, but that could also involve Borchgrevink at right back or right wing back and McEntee in the centre of midfield as well. It doesn't have to be one or the other.
Yeah, I mean, it's always hard to judge these things when we haven't seen him in training since he's been back in the bounce game stuff, so we don't know exactly how sharp he is or how much, if it's taking him longer to get back up to speed. But like I mentioned before, just from what McInnes was saying, it sounded like he was more cautious around McEntee than he was around Borchgrevink. So if it comes down to the two of them, I think Borchgrevink will play. But then, of course, there is the chance that he doesn't play either of them, and like a Steinwender plays at right back, or Alan Forrest or someone plays right wing back. So, yeah, I suppose it just comes down to how McInnes thinks both of them have been looking in training, and if they're not quite at the sharpness required to start yet, and they might get minutes off the bench to try and build them up for next week. So, we'll just, I suppose, have to wait and see till the team's announced. But I'm repeating myself here, but I think Borchgrevink will play and McEntee won't. But I'm willing to stand corrected on that.
Have you said you hadn't seen too much of Falkirk this season? So I'll just fill a space by saying what to expect from them. I did mention about them wanting to pass out from the back. One of the issues they do have going into this, I haven't seen exactly their team news, but they do have Lewis Nielsen on loan from Hearts. He's been playing pretty much every week. I've checked. He's been playing in the centre of defence alongside Liam Henderson for Falkirk. He will be ineligible because of that loan. And I'm not entirely sure who plays alongside Henderson in the back line now, because unless Lang or Donaldson are back, I don't think either of them were on the bench on Tuesday. And then I honestly don't know. I had a look through the squad and I couldn't see anybody else who was obvious to play in there. Sean Mackey would be another one who would be in contention, but apparently he's injured as well. Mm-hmm. So they could have an issue with personnel at the back. But what I would say is, regardless of who's playing for Falkirk, and I think McInnes was making this point yesterday, it's about how Hearts approach the game, and it's about how Hearts impose themselves on the game. And I know Falkirk have had a decent start to the season. They've taken all 3 points from Pittodrie, but Aberdeen are in a real mess at the moment. They've taken 3 points from, a point after going 2-0 down against Hibs. But again, that feeds into the story of Hibs' season. I'm not trying to take anything away from what Falkirk have done already this season, but, and I'm sure you agree with this, Blair, it's just a match that Hearts should be winning if they're wanting to go anywhere near to fulfilling ambitions this season.
Yeah, definitely. I think it will suit Hearts the fact that Falkirk are not a team who will just come in and just sit in and just try and spoil. They
like Motherwell.
Yeah. But they might sort of alter their approach slightly and be not completely throwing caution to the wind or anything like that, but they're not going to be a team which we've seen over the years Hearts struggle against when they just literally come and sit and put 10 men behind the ball. I don't expect that. So that I think that'll play into Hearts' hands slightly. Again, I'm tempting fate there, but hopefully that's the way it'll work out. And then obviously I was thinking about the Lewis Nielsen thing, because I think he has been playing every week, and I was thinking that's obviously potentially something that'll disrupt them, but I wasn't even aware of the fact that they didn't have any other fit centre half. So that makes it even more amplified. So yeah, definitely, hopefully that's another factor that's suiting Hearts as well.
Okay, I think we may have exhausted that preview for tomorrow's game. I'm just trying to scroll through comments and read while I talk at the same time. It's not very good. Lewis is saying not to put Alan Forrest at right wing back.
I wasn't actually suggesting that before I wouldn't go any further. I wasn't suggesting that as an option. It's just something that has been done before. That potentially.
Yeah, and it's something that you wouldn't be surprised if you saw as well. I mean, sometimes you just see something in a game that makes him want to do something like that. And as I've said quite a number of times, he does like to play wingers at wing back, and I think again it's something that the team will eventually evolve into doing more often. Whether that's Alan Forrest is another question, I suppose. Yeah, this is nothing. Just before we finish, actually, that's why I was stalling, because I knew there was something else I wanted to go to. We were kind of having this discussion a wee bit yesterday. Some other people in the press room as well. Hearts really, I was saying that Hearts really have to go into these next two matches looking to take 6 points from 6. And then I kind of stopped myself and said, it sounds like I'm being a bit greedy, because Hearts are 13 points from 15, joint top of the league on points. And then you're talking about taking 6 points from 6 before the next international break. But I think when you look at both the matches, we've just said there that Falkirk should be a game that Hearts should be winning. And then looking ahead, and the form that Hibs are in, I don't think they've won a game. Is it they haven't, or they've won one game in 9? Or?
They've done the last 4 league games, I think. Is that right?
Right, something along those lines. Yeah, they're out from, they're conceding a lot of goals, and they have Celtic this weekend. So unless they pull out something special, it looks like that form could very well continue by the time they pitch up at Tynecastle. So again, looking ahead, it looks like another game that Hearts should be taking maximum points from. Again, if they want to, and what I like about McInnes is he keeps dropping in big teams. What a big team does. This is what it's like at a big team, these kind of things. I think that's all part of his I was going to say ploy, it makes it sound more underhand. This sort of like his way of sort of like embedding that into the mentality of people around the club. Yeah,
definitely. I think even if Hibs were doing better than they are, I think a home derby, first derby of the season at home, everyone would be expecting Hearts to be going to look to win that anyway. So the fact that they're not looking great, they're conceding goals, and will be coming up against a Hearts team which is capable of scoring a lot of goals. It just means that Hearts will be favourites for that, I think. Obviously, if things go wrong this weekend, then it completely changes the narrative around that. But we've said on this podcast already that we're expecting Hearts to go and try and win, and we're expecting them to be on the front foot and win that game. So then you're thinking after that, you're just looking to the next game, the derby, and again you're hoping that they're confident for that and expecting to win that as well. So yeah, I think we should be looking for Hearts to win the next 2 games, and then we're obviously in a brilliant position after that. And then just, I think the way McInnes is talking as well, he's like the perfect manager to just keep that sort of going, ticking over game to game, keep the players confident and upbeat, but also just on a level where they're not getting too carried away with themselves, and they just take each game as it comes. So I think he's a perfect guy to keep that ticking over.
Yeah, to go back to something you said at the start, your answer there, good point. I should have just said Hibs at home, Hearts should be looking to win that. And that's enough said. Hibs at home, you don't have to go and add all this context about who's in form and who's not. It doesn't matter. Hearts should be winning Hibs at home. And as Adam, just to finish, as Adam has summed it up much more eloquently than I put, looking for anything less than 6 points goes against all our ambitions, both at home. Favourites for both. Aim is to be at least level on points with Celtic by the time we meet. All about mentality. I think that is a good point to end on. Thanks to everybody for getting involved. I think I just about pulled it out, managing to get through comments and stuff. Thanks very much, Blair, for coming on. You will be
Thanks for having me
with us tomorrow. We'll cover the game, and then we will do the post-match reaction. And as I said, we will hopefully be seeing a bit more of Blair over the coming weeks. But yeah, please, everybody get over to heartstandard.co.uk if you haven't already. And just one last wee plug for subscribe as we aim for 5,000 by the end of the year. We'll see you all soon.